Master the Mundane. Today on Sales Chatter, we're going to dive into chapter 4 of The Slight Edge.
Welcome to the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
Hey there, my friends. Welcome back. Today I want to talk to you about chapter 4 of The Slight Edge. It's our ongoing book series. And this chapter, I think, speaks to me anyways, more than most of the chapters so far. And it's about mastering the mundane, right? Like, think about this for a second. In our sales career, what is it that we do every day that sometimes on the outside doesn't have an impact, where we don't necessarily see results right away, right? I think of this when I think of prospecting. I think of prospecting as, you go through the day and you pump out 15, 20, 30, 50, 100 calls. Maybe you pump out 100 emails. Maybe you pump out 50 emails. Maybe you pump out 20 videos, 30 videos, 50 videos. Nothing happens. Then you do it the next day. Nothing happens. Then you do it the next day. Nothing happens. But here's the thing. We can so quickly get caught up in it's not happening. And since it's not happening, it's easy to stop, right? And in this book, this part of it anyways, we talk a lot about the fact that it's easy to do and it's even easier not to do. And that's what really hit me with this chapter is I started looking at things in my life and I started saying, okay, like for me, for all of you that know me, I'm still recovering for 2 years of fighting cancer. And in that recovery, working out is part of my day that I absolutely must do. And I'm not necessarily, I'm seeing some results because I went from like 2 chin-ups to being able to do 4 to 5 to 7 now. And some of you might say, wow, Dan, like 7 chin-ups. But for somebody that was unable to even lift their body weight 6 months ago, 7 chin-ups is good. Now, you just heard what I said 6 months ago. Should I be further ahead? Yes. You know what I've done? I've gone days where I'm like, well, I'll just do it tomorrow, right? I haven't mastered the mundane. And I think that's why this chapter speaks to me so much, because as much as I know I'm a high performer because I get so many things done in a day, sometimes I neglect the things that help my life move forward in different aspects, right? So think of it like this. I don't know if you've ever had the feeling or if you've been in the position where you lose 2 years of your life and you lose 2 years of productivity. And we spoke about it the other day on Data Day when I was talking with Jeff and Dean about it. But it's like this feeling where I want to get business back on track. I want to get my sales back on track. I want to get my education back on track. But sometimes my health takes a back seat. Now, I'm very conscious about what I eat, how I eat, the calories I intake, clean calories, because one thing that I do know is prior to getting sick, you might not have seen it, but I was overweight. I was lethargic. I was strong. I had energy, but I felt like my energy could be more. I could have better. So for me, that part of my life is like set in stone now. I want to eat well. And don't get me wrong, I'll call a spade, and I'll be fully transparent here. A lot of it is the fact that I just don't have the saliva, so I can't eat the things I used to eat. Like, I can't eat hamburgers. I have to be very careful with bread. I have to, and it'll be like this for the rest of my life. So I can't taste sweets. So for me, I was addicted to donuts, and some of you might know, some of you might not know, but I was seriously addicted to donuts. I would literally get in the lines at Tim Hortons, and for all of you in the US, that's our like Dunkin' Donuts. And I'd have to convince myself that I don't need 6 donuts. And some of you might say, get out of here, Dan. But it's true. Now, I don't even crave sugar because I can't taste it. So, but I had to go through something serious in my life to realize that. So why don't I realize that about exercising, right? Many times, including this week, as we sit here on Friday, the 23rd of February, it's many, many times this week. I've worked out twice in the last 7 days. Why? Because I'm like, well, I got to get this work done. And when I read this book, it hit me. I cried. I was shocked. I got depressed. I was like telling myself, like, how could you do this, Dan? Like, what's wrong with you? So I want to go through a couple of things um, that I really believe I've highlighted here, and I want to just talk about these things because I really do think that this chapter is probably one of the most defining chapters um, that I've read in this book so far. So let's start with this. How many people do you know whom you would call successful? I don't necessarily mean financially successful, although that certainly counts as one aspect of success, but I mean successful in every aspect of their life. People who have vibrant health, plenty of friends, people who are full of energy, curiosity, and always wanting to learn new things and excited about life. Successful as in people whose lives are clearly working for them. Now, think about that for a minute as we sit here in today in the industry in the way it is. Maybe some of you are getting pressure from your bosses to up the ante. Maybe some of you are finding major issues in the industry, people delaying payments, all this kind of stuff, which causes all this undue stress and anxiety. Maybe your commissions aren't what they were. I'm speaking to a lot of people, a lot of students, and a lot of friends that, a year and a half ago, they were making 100 grand a month in their pocket, and now they're making 10 grand, right? That's stressful. But I go back to that question, the mundane, the tasks that are easy to do, but are even easier not to do. Did they continue those tasks during the good times? And it's something that I think, I really think that we need to, as salespeople, be honest with ourselves. Like, are you doing everything you need to do every day to be successful? Now, I want to redefine success because Earl Nightingale gave the best definition of success I've ever heard in my life. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. To me, progressive realization of a worthy ideal. If the worthy ideal for you is success in life, success in love, success in peace, success in harmony, what is it that you're doing every day to meet that objective? And here's the thing, I'll go back. I think the exercise thing, it's been beat to death, but I really think it's one of the best ways we as individuals can really define that because it's easy to say every morning I'm going to wake up, I'm going to do 20 push-ups, 20 sit-ups, 20 lunges just with my body weight. But it's even easier to say, I'm going to skip today. And in sales, it's easy to say on your way to work. So say like even better. Let's use this scenario. On your way home on a Friday evening, like, you know what? I shit the bed this week. I didn't do half the stuff I could have done. And next week I'm coming out full throttle. On your way to work on Monday, you're like, this is this week. This is the week I'm going to make things happen. And then as you get to work, all of a sudden you don't pick up the phone. Somebody cuts you off. And for the first 2 hours of your day, you're complaining about that person that cut you off. It's easier to do that than pick up the phone and hear no. It's easier to do that than pick up the phone and say, well, I'm just going to get voicemail everything. I'm just going to send 50 emails and nobody's going to reply to me. I'm just going to, you see what I'm saying? So we rationalize, which is just rationing lies to ourselves about how this thing is easy. And he goes on to say, let's be honest. Most people are struggling to keep their heads above water. I don't mean financially, struggling to keep from digging deeper and deeper into debt, struggling to keep their health from slipping, struggling to manage everything in their busy lives without stressing out, struggling to juggle their friendships, relationships with everything else tugging away at them. Life often feels like a race with someone consistently moving the finish line further away. Does that hit you? It hit me. It hit me hard because I struggle with a lot of these things. I really do. And I think that, with what it is today with social media and everybody, in my opinion, being so fake about what's happening in their lives, I could tell you, full transparency, I struggle with a lot of these things, right? I struggle with being productive in a business environment, but what happens? My family lacks, right? Perfect example. I mean, most weekends, I'm creating new strategies, ideas to implement because I find, and here's the juxtaposition that I think that a lot of us face is like those quiet times, nighttime, sitting in bed, working, neglecting maybe my wife, maybe some friendships, maybe some relationships because it's quiet. I don't have the phone ringing. I don't have emails dinging. I don't have all this distraction. And during the day, I have the distraction, but I turn it off. But then there's fires that need to be put out. And I'm sure all of you logistics reps can feel this. I'm sure everyone listening, even if you're not even in logistics, you feel this. And it's like, you know, how do we manage it? And I've often heard many times there is no, work-life balance. Like if you work 9 hours a day and you have little kids that go to bed at 8 o'clock at night and you get home at 6, or they go to bed at 9, that's 3 hours a day to spend with your family. So the time differential will never usually work out, but it's the quality of that time. And I tell you, and I can tell you from experience, when I was sick, it was like I swore to myself, I'm not going to let this happen again. And what happens? I let it happen again. And I'm struggling with that. I don't know if you are. If you are, I'd love to hear how you're dealing with it, or even just share some thoughts on how you're dealing with it, because I think we as individuals, if we don't open ourselves up to learn from everyone, I think we're missing a big part of life. And he goes on to say, with all of this happening, 1 out of 20, about 5%, which means 1 out of 20 people are actually achieving this, which means 95% are either failing or falling short, which prompts a question. What's the difference between the 5% and 95%? What are the 5% doing that the other 95% are not? And obviously, this relates back, and he's relating this back to the slight edge, right? Which is, in essence, do the small things that compound and add up to the big things. It's like compound interest, right? A lot of people say they understand it, but they really don't. And, $2 a day, instead of getting that coffee, you're putting $2 a day into an investment that has compound interest. Over the years, you're a millionaire. So what is that $2 a day that you can invest every day in your time and make an unmovable decision, choice to get that done? I mean, I'll tell you, I've been on this like rocket ship since I read this chapter. He says, the 5% understand the power of the slight edge and how it is working for or against them. They may not use the word slight edge to describe it. They may not even see what they're doing as being a philosophy, but that's exactly what it is. So perseverance is a great substitute for talent. And it's interesting because when I was working at a very large brokerage firm, billion-dollar brokerage firm, they had a big sign on the wall at the end of the stairs that says, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And you could be as talented, even more, you could be in the top 0.001% of talent. If you don't apply yourself every day, if you don't do the mundane, you will never reach the heights that you can actually reach. And he goes on in this chapter, and I mean, I could make, the reality is I could do an hour and a half show just on this chapter. And I think I probably will talk about it even more coming next week, because the more I speak about it and the more I share this information, the more the philosophy starts like really solidifying in my head. So I encourage you, go out and talk about this, go out and get this book, The Slight Edge, and read this chapter, because this just going into what the 5% do differently, right? So he goes in and gives us, and what he does is he gives us three major reasons why so many talented people don't actually achieve the results and the success, the progressive realization of their worthy ideal. And he says, one, they're easy to do. So the things that you have to do to become super successful are really easy to do. They're the mundane tasks, the ones that don't necessarily, you might not see them moving the needle, right? And I talk about it all the time. Like I'm big on it. Like, what are you going to do today that really moves the needle in your business, right? And part of that is sales. And some people say, yeah, but then, I just had a conversation with a student the other day. He says, I'm not seeing any results. I said, what do you mean you're not seeing any results? He goes, I'm not seeing any results. I go, well, are people replying back to you? He goes, yeah, some people are saying no, thank you. I go, well, that's results. So you're doing the mundane. I had a friend of mine, and I'm sure I mentioned this yesterday in the show, but it's worth repeating again. I'm actually going riding with him tomorrow. Um, you know, he set out and he created a 5-day program for himself during the economic failure of 2008, 9, and 10. And he stuck to that plan. It was easy to do, but also, as he says in the easy to do section, it's also easy not to do. I'm not going to do that today. I'm not going to go out. So he did Monday, Wednesday, Friday. He visited as many people as he could, just walk-ins. Tuesday and Thursday, he followed up with those people. Tuesday and Thursday, he created the new meetings for next week. And he did this for an entire year. And by the next year, he was the top sales rep in his company. Okay. But he also said it was easy not to do, Dan. I could easily decide I'm not going out this Monday. It's bad weather. It's raining. I just don't feel like it. I'm going to go into the office and send emails. It's just as productive. But he chose to do it. Right now, this brings us right into the idea number 2 that Joel talks about. The results are invisible. For a whole year, his results were invisible. So what are you doing right now that are the tasks, the to-dos that are actually moving the needle? So when we look at sales, it's prospecting. Prospecting is one of the biggest needle movers ever. But the results you're getting right now might be invisible. I know for myself, I'm fully invested in logistics sales as well as fully invested in bridger sales. And I'll tell you right now, some days I end after going through, creating 150 different videos and sending them to prospects. Not one reply. The results are invisible, but I know it got delivered. I can see the stats. And even if I see the stats of them not opening it or clicking on the video, what does that tell me? It tells me I need to get better at my subject lines. It tells me I need to get better at my first sentences so people actually open the emails. How am I going to intrigue these? So I say this all the time, and please understand this. Whatever you're going to do, get insanely good at it. If cold calling is your thing, get insanely good at cold calling. If it's video, get insanely good at video. If it's emails, get insanely good at emails. Because we can do all of these things, and we can just close our eyes and spray, and it's not going to give us any results because we're not getting insanely good. He talks about, the easy things. Read 10 pages a day. At the end of the year, you've read 3,650 pages. 10 pages a day. That's equivalent to 12 or 14 books a year. 10 pages a day. Think about that. 10 pages a day. What is it, 30 minutes? But the knowledge, and he talks in this book about reading books that are going to give you something. Like, read the sales books. I'm not saying you're going to glean, oh my God, the skies are going to open up. You're going to, and it from one book, but you're going to get one little nugget that brings you to that next bar, right? I often say you got 10, 20 bars and rungs ahead of you that you need to get to. And it's your obligation to get there for your client, for your family, for you as an individual, right? For your own self-worth, get there. And he says, and number 3 that he talks about is they seem insignificant. So think about this. They're easy to do. You don't see results, and they seem insignificant. That could be the trifecta that leads you to stop doing things. But are they insignificant? I remember when I was training over 100 and something sales reps, I think 127 was the max. And what I did is every week, I took about 2 hours of my day to input information into a really focused, streamlined spreadsheet I created. So it took me about 4 hours to create, and it was about 2 hours a week. And that investment of my time was to show my team what happens when they just stick to the status quo and just keep churning. And regardless of what enters the day, get this done. And I was able to visually show them, you see this here? This is your results from this month. Here's your results 60, 90 days later. And it was a wicked identical. When their productivity went up, so did their sales. When their productivity went down, it was only a matter of time before their sales went down, right? This is why in business, we can get customers. If we don't take care of the customers, we lose the customers. And you're probably saying to yourself, Dan, come on, really? It's true. Think about it. Customers leave when we stop paying attention to them. See, this is the big juxtaposition in business, right? This is the big juxtaposition when you're doing multiple millions of dollars in business, when you have so many customers you don't know what to do with it. It's like, well, I don't have any time to spend with my customers and sell. So what are you doing to maximize each piece of these puzzles, right? Maybe it's shutting your phone off, hitting do not disturb on your phone, on your cell phone, on your office phone, on your email, putting it out of office. I know I was doing it. When I was at the peak of my career, I had to protect my time because I knew these small little things in business added up to a lot. That's how I got where I was. So what I did is I would protect my time. I would put my email on out of office saying I'm away in meetings for the next 2 hours. I'll get back to you at 11. I'd tell my assistant at the time. I'd tell my team lead at the time. I'd say to everybody, I'd close my door. And I trained everybody around me that when this door is closed, unless it's an emergency, do not bother me because I need to build this business. And I engaged my team to help me do that. Because I think a lot of the times we think we can do things on our own and we can't. We need the help of people. I'll give you a perfect example in our business right now. I'm finding that the customer service part of it is just taking up so much time. So I went to my partners. I said, we need to split this because I'm missing the opportunities because I'm serving the present clients, but we can't stop serving the clients. I just can't not reply. So how do we divide that to make sure we're serving at the highest levels all the time, right? Again, it might seem insignificant at the time, but when customers start leaving because we don't give them that personal touch, it's no longer insignificant. So think about that for a minute, right? So I want you to think of this. It's not hard to see how people come to this understanding of life. I don't blame them. It's completely understandable. It's just not the truth, okay? And what he's saying there is he's saying the difference between success and failure is not dramatic. In fact, the difference between success and failure is so subtle, so mundane that most people miss it. They may not realize they have a philosophy, but they do. And it goes like this. What I do right now doesn't really matter. And you might say to yourself, Dan, that's bullshit. Well, I'm going to call bullshit on you. Because if you're not doing what you know you have to do to better your life, in any which way, whatever success means to you, then what you're saying is, what I do right now really doesn't matter. And trust me, it hit me like a friggin' sledgehammer to the forehead. Because I was like, no, that's bull. When I first read that sentence, I was like, that's bullshit. I do it. And I stopped and I went, no, I don't. No, I don't. I don't pay attention to things because I'm focused on business. I don't pay attention to business because I'm focused on other things. So we're all in this juxtaposition. We're all in it together. And if anyone that says they're not, I think they're honestly a fucking liar. Maybe some people have it down more than others, but you look at very successful people that have unbelievably brutal personal lives because they've not prioritized what the full version of success is. They think that money will change everything and it won't. It just won't. He says, so he goes on and says, it's completely understandable. It's not the truth. The truth is what you do matters. What you do today matters. What you do every day matters. Successful people are those who understand that those little choices they make matter. And because of that, they choose to do things that seem to make no difference at all in the act of doing them. They do them over and over again until the compound effect kicks in. Wow. In closing, here's something that I'd like for all of you to do. And I've just done this and I'm going to read them to you. Joel says, get 10 core commitments, which is a list of basic actions people could take to move their business forward. Little things that were easy to do and just as easy not to do. Things that wouldn't really seem to make a difference if you did them or didn't do them. Things that, if you did them, nobody would even notice. Things that were, in other words, mundane. So I stopped here because I could have continued. I could have continued reading, but I said, you know what? What are my 10 core commitments for me in life, for me in my business? And I took 35 minutes and I listed out those 10 core commitments. And since I read this, I've actually sent them to my printer buddy, and I've got him to print me 24 by 12 sheets with the 10 core commitments on them. And then the next week, they're going to be hung up right in front of my desk, right behind this camera. Why? I want them to be in my sight at all times. So here's my challenge to you on this Friday, February 23rd. Write your 10 core commitments. Decide, make an irrevocable choice that you're going to commit to those commitments for the next year. And I guarantee you, as much as it's going to get dark tonight, you'll see the results come to you in massive strides. And I'm looking forward to speaking with you again about this, because this is going to be something that we're going to be amplifying over the next little bit. Until next time, my friends, remember, go out there, make every call educational, and crush your sales. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching.